Well, welcome to Conversations with Dr. Harriet and our special guest, Dr. Key, Dr. Key Garris-Watson. How are you?
I am doing well, Dr. Harriet. Thank you so much for allowing me to be with you today. How are you this day?
I am so wonderful. And I appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us right here on Conversations with Dr. Harriet and our listeners and viewers from all over the world right here on the Power Network. So, for those few people who may not know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, ma'am. I do my best. Well, I am Dr. Key. And that's such a full statement for me. That's just who I am. I am me. I'm doing the best I can to be me. I am the senior pastor of Words of Deliverance Worldwide Ministries in Petersburg, Virginia. I am also the executive leader of Dr. Key Enterprises, which is a social enterprise. I am a full-time employee, so I am the director of an Upward Bound program, which is a pre-college preparatory program. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. But all of that just comes up to me being God's daughter and doing my best to make his name great in the earth realm. So I am just God's daughter. So I'm me.
Okay, I want to give a shout out to your husband.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I definitely cannot miss or be remiss not to talk about my husband, the answer to my prayers wrapped in cocoa butter brown flesh, the Bishop James E. Watson. That is indeed a gift from God to me. So that is definitely, would never forget him. Never.
That's right. And a couple of things that before our topic today is birthing purpose. But before I do so, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. First thing, we talked about you were on a different platform with me recently, and the guest speaker. And we talked about you being, you have two masters, you have earned doctorate, and tell us a little bit about that, and even being the first in your family to achieve that.
Absolutely. So yes, ma'am. I do have two earned master's degrees. I have an earned doctorate, then I'm ABD for my PhD. And all of that, that sounds great. That's really what it speaks to is one, student loans, and two, also to the glory and the greatness of God. Being the first in my family it's a burden at moments, but it's also a blessing because when you're the first, you're the one that has to break curses. You're the one that has to go paths that were not set. So I did not see these things around me. It was something that was an internal desire that God put in. I knew that we grew up in poverty. I knew that we grew up in the projects, and I wanted out. I didn't want to be what I was seeing. There were great people, but I just didn't want the path. I didn't want the pain that I saw in poverty. And my only way out was education. That was the only way I knew to get out. And so I was privileged. I considered it a privilege to be the first in my family. But for me, I might be the first, but I refuse to be the last. And that's important to me is that I would not be the last in my family to do anything, but that I would set a path that others could follow. And that's really been my whole life. And so when I talk about who I am, I talk about degrees, I'm really just giving God glory because nothing that I have ever done, it is completely impossible for me to talk about myself independent of God, independent of that faith, independent of the strength that he gives, independent of the wisdom that I've depended on him. I'll tell people some days I'm not as smart as people think. Some people think it just comes naturally. No, I had to grind. I had to work hard to get to where I am. I had to really sacrifice. But that sacrifice came because there was strength that came from above. And so I'm the evidence of what God can and will do in somebody's life because nothing around me added up. Nothing in my life spoke to this place. There was nothing that would have ever let me know that I would be in a place where I could talk about these accomplishments. But again, I can take no credit. I can only give God glory.
That's right. And we always talk about the having the praying ancestors, the grandmas and the grandpas from way back when who were praying then for you for this legacy to come about. And they knew it was coming. They just didn't know when. And so, but they kept praying and look at what came to fruition. So I think we even talk about that when we talk about how your name is hyphenated, how you kept your the Garris-Watson. Talk about that, how important it was for that legacy.
Absolutely. I hope that I'm the product of prayers. I don't actually have a spiritual legacy that I can attach myself to, especially on the Garris side. What I do know is I had a foster grandmother who took me in and raised me like she was on. So I know I'm the product of her prayers. My first memory is at 3 years old being with her and being prayed over. But when I talk about Garris and Garris-Watson, I'm hyphenated not out of inconsideration for my husband, but actually out of the burden of the responsibility of creating a new legacy for the Garris name. And so being a Watson is an honor because my husband chose me. Being Garris is what I was born into, but there was not anything that I could attach to that Garris was carrying on or Garris was doing. There was very little legacy around me. And so God left the burden of that legacy on my shoulders to create a mantle that was not seen. So when, we often talk about parents and grandparents and those things, I didn't have the grace of that type of growing up. So the knowing about prayer and knowing about, things, I would learn that from a foster grandmother. And I thank God for her because he put her in my life. And even at 94 years old with dementia, she doesn't remember me, but she remembers God. And that's really all that matters. So, but being a Garris, it was knowing that there had to be a new legacy for our family and creating that new legacy. So when I had that conversation with my husband, he was so understanding and so supportive of recognizing that I was called to do some things in the earth realm that had not been done before me. And that when he attached his name, he was then picking up that burden of bringing forth that destiny and what came with it. So I honor him in all that I do and all that I am. But that Garris, that hyphenation is definitely not a dishonor in any way, but it's just destiny. So when you see the Garris-Watson piece, it was because of destiny.
That's so wonderful because a lot of women struggle with that. They want to keep their maiden name for that particular reason, but they do want to honor their husband. So, as you said, have that conversation ahead of time and talk about it. It's not because of women's lib or whatever.
Right. I say it's not feminism, and I'm not, getting into the points of that, but it's really, for me, it was just that saying yes. It was for me obedience. It was obedience to knowing that something had to change. And so my reason for being born was to bring change into the lineage that was Garris. And then that Garris would bring further change as being a part of Garris-Watson. So it really, that, and it spoke to, again, I was the first, but I refuse to be the last. I will not be the last anything in my family, but I will be the first of many things.
That is so wonderful. Definitely. And so, our topic today is birthing purpose. But before we get into our topic, I know we're going to be actually talking about the topic because you have some amazing books. So let's talk about, tell us about your books really quick, and then we'll go on.
Yes, ma'am. And I realized I just made a mistake in a statement. I said I would not be the last anything, but that's actually not true. I will be the last victim of a lot of things. And so that's what my first book talks about. And it literally, as soon as I said it out my mouth, Holy Spirit unctioned me like, yeah, no, I am the last. I'm the curse breaker, which is why there will be first, many first. So I'm the first and the last of a lot of things. And it's only because of him. So my first book, which is Damaged but Destined, that's my autobiography. It talks about that. It talks about the evolution from a damaged place into a destined place. It talks about the processes that God took me through, and hopefully it will be processes that will help other people. We know that no life is one size fits all, but there are elements and pieces in this story that speak to men and women who may see themselves in different phases of my life. All of it brings back that faith walk that I had to build. It didn't just come naturally. It was a relationship that had to be built with myself. It was a relationship that had to be built with God. It was a detoxing and a disruption of some sorts. The Lord literally disrupted my life. What I'm doing now is not what I thought I would be doing. It took me 8 years to be obedient to this because I'm extremely private. Extremely private. When you look up introvert, I'm in the book. I'm there for
It's your picture.
So you're going to see my picture. So the idea of putting my truth out there and then knowing that my truth would bring backlash, but I had to be obedient. And because I wanted others to be free. I was grateful to be free, but I hope that telling my story would help others be free. And it's not a accusational story, but really it's a story of God's anointing, ability to anoint and to use, to take miracles and take mess and create miracles. It speaks to the very idea that I'm his proof, I'm his evidence that he really can indeed take what the enemy intended for evil and use it for good. And so he honored me that it's been out a little bit for a little while now, but the first week that it was out, it actually went to #1 on Amazon for a day. And that for me, it was a day, it was a 24 hours to just let me know that my story mattered. And so I was grateful to God. So I was like, okay, God, I'm obedient. I've done it. It was one of the things. I did what you said do. I'm done with it. And then he said, there's more. And that's where Damaged but Destined, the deliverance diary came from. And literally there are pages from my own prayers, pages from my own journal. This is actually my handwriting on the cover. There's pieces of my conversations with God, my processes that he used. So we took the word. So as a walk through the Proverbs, and he takes the word, we take the word and apply it to our wounds. And it invites the reader to actually do the same. And it may be 31 days, but it may take longer because sometimes you'll get stuck in a place. And so it invites them to go through the process. And it may not always be pain, but it may be a birthing place, or it may be a place of elevation, because even with freedom, there's a level of fear, because it's a new place. And so that's what these two stories are designed, or these two books are designed to do, is help people to know that they have a partner. They have someone who will walk with them through that process, even if it's just through pages of a book. So hopefully they can find a way to take their pain and find purpose, take their pain and find power. Because all of us, if we've been alive, have experienced some level of pain, maybe not the same pain, but there's been something that has caused pain, and we want to get purpose out of it.
That's right. And in your other book we have 2 books, and you have a boot camp.
Have a boot camp. Yes, ma'am. And then there are some other books that
we talk about the boot camp. Tell us about how they can find your books.
For the books, they can find them on DRKI, which is drkey.org, which is my actual website, or they can find them on my social media. They can drop me a message if they're interested in them. They can get them individually or as a set. However they feel led, I would be honored to have my book in their hands. And I pray over every book. Of course, I prayed over the pages as I was writing, but I actually pray over every book that I send out. Even if I get the notification that it went through Amazon, I send a prayer because I want to meet that person in that place as they're reading, and hopefully they feel like they're not alone in their journey.
Okay, that sounds so good. So again, our topic is birthing purpose. And I know even with the boot camp that you have, tell us, in about maybe 30 seconds, if you can, about how they can join your boot camp that you have.
Absolutely. The boot camp is actually just that. It's designed to help people birth purpose. So you can often have plans, or you have prophecies, and you don't know how to make them reality. So that's what the Purpose Birthing Boot Camp is. It's an intensified 2-day session that's designed to help people to understand the processes necessary in order to give birth to purpose. And when we talk about processes, oftentimes we think it's just going to be, especially with those of faith, but this is not just limited to those of faith, it's marketplace and ministry. But oftentimes we have these words and we think it's just going to happen supernaturally. Well, we deal with the natural side of that and the supernatural. So we deal with the business side of it. We talk about being in compliance and things of that nature, building the logo, colors and meanings. And so we bring in a team that we use, and that team comes together. And as we build the team builds another team. And so our goal is to help people get birth purpose and understand even how to have a ministry when you're committed to a ministry, how to have a ministry without being in conflict with leaders. So those types of things, and how to give birth to things when you only have a few dollars. So we tried our best. What I did with this particular thing in obedience was I wanted to give to people what I didn't have. I wanted people to be able to learn from my mistakes. I wanted my lessons to be somebody else's blessings, so that they would not lose the things that I lost along the way because I didn't have access to information. So we want to be an access point so people can become who they were destined to be.
That is so good. And again, they can go to your website.
They can go to the website. They'll see it on social media. Okay. It's out there. We're preparing for March boot camp. So that's there. And then what they can also understand is that this boot camp is, again, not relegated just to the church. The kingdom is important, but in order for the kingdom to be effectual, we have to take it into other places. So we're actually going to take this boot camp into the projects. And by taking it into the projects, our goal is to help our sisters and brothers that are in low income communities to be able to go with purpose and to help them to do that. So hopefully they can get out of the projects. DRKI Enterprises is a social enterprise. So the profits are designed to help others to produce. So that's what we're destined to do. Yes, ma'am.
Wow, that is so good. And we just even asking people to sow into paying someone's tuition, to give back. You may not be able to go you can also bless someone else. So definitely make sure to check her out on social media and go to her website. And any donations would be wonderful to sow into that ministry. You know what? I'm going to sew myself and attend your boot camp. How about
Dr.
that?
Harry, it is a great honor. You are
Absolutely. I love it.
indeed would be an honor to have you be a part. And you've done so much for so many. So I'm honored that you would even take the time to come and be a part of what we're doing.
Yeah. Difficulties, but it's all good. We're gonna get this. We're gonna get through this, right? But you know what? Let's get to our topic because birthing purpose. Let's talk about that. How important is that to wherever you're at in life, whether you're a newbie, as we call, or you're seasoned. Talk about that. How important is the birth purpose?
I think what most people's conflict in life is that they're not walking in purpose. So a lot of the pain that people are experiencing is because they're doing something contrary to what they were born for. So when we start talking about birthing purpose, is being able to become, why was I put into this earth? Why was I born? Why did I go through what I went through? And so when we start talking about purpose, we have to talk about dealing with old self versus new self. And you're trying to become what you were always destined to be. Then most people they think, well, I have these ideas or I have this thing or this passion in me. That passion often fuels purpose. They asked a question, which I think is a little crazy, is they'll say, well, if you could do whatever you wanted to do and you didn't get paid for, what would you do? Well, I'm gonna tell y'all, I kind of got bills, so I want to be paid. So, I think that's a crazy question when you ask about purpose, because, most real people want to be paid even for their passion. So it's like, but what is that passion and how does that passion line up with purpose? And it's important that we do find purpose, because we lose time or we find ourselves in a place of frustration that we don't understand. And oftentimes that frustration is because we've not walked into purpose or we're not on the path that's leading us to purpose. So it's a sense of not being fulfilled. Some people then began to look at other things, or they look at other opportunities. And that's really opposition from the enemy, because if I can get you distracted, I can keep you from walking in destiny. And so we want to see that people are not in a distracted place, but they're in a destined place. Doesn't mean that it all happens overnight. Doesn't mean that it doesn't come with opposition, because it does. But when we're in a place of obedience, it leads us to the birthing of purpose. And so we have to be prepared to face that. Walking in purpose. I don't do anything, Dr. Harriet, without a purpose. And I don't have conversations that don't have purpose. So I'm an introvert. So I really don't do, like people do, small talk. That is the worst part for me, when you walk into places and you have to do small talk, because it's like, okay, where are we trying to get? What are we trying to accomplish? And it's not a rudeness. It's really like, okay, so what's the purpose in this moment? I'm constantly looking for purpose, or purpose for moments, so that I don't miss them. I think that we have missed purposeful moments or purposeful encounters because we're not looking for purpose in this. I think that everything that we wake up to do, every moment is a purposeful moment. And when we begin to look at that, of course, purpose has become almost cliche, but that's really what most people are fighting up against, is they are not walking in the thing that they were called to do, or they're walking the wrong thing. Because some people have had other people, I try to tell them, oh, you look like this, or you look like that, not realizing that's not even what they were created for.
Oh, that is so good. Wow. And I love that purpose for a moment. That is so important because, we do come across a lot of opportunities and we don't see the opportunity. We're walking and thinking it's one thing and it's absolutely something different, and so purpose for that moment. I love that. Talk about even when we are encountering people as we're searching for our purpose. And, I'm sure the enemy is looking to distract you because he doesn't want you to reach your purpose. How important is it to stay focused, and how are ways that we can stay focused as we're searching for our purpose?
I think one of the key ways, and as a person of faith, my first plan for purpose is always prayer. I'm prayerful about every moment. I'm prayerful about every day. For somebody who may say, well, I'm not that big on faith, it's still that it's actually being intentional about everything that you do, intentional about every encounter. And sometimes it's not about getting purpose, but sometimes it may be about being somebody else's purpose. One of my daily prayers is being the answer to somebody else's prayers. Are you on assignment to help somebody else? If we get past self-centered motives, or we get past hidden agendas, I think we can find purpose so much easier, because there are moments, every moment matters. And when we think about, everybody gets the same amount of time each day, but what we get out of that is predicated on what we do with it, So in order to really find purpose, we have to be looking for it. We have to be intentional about it. We have to be praying about it. There's nothing we should be, as if you're a believer, there's nothing you should be doing without prayer. And if you're not necessarily a believer, there's nothing you should be doing without preparation. I don't look at anything as accidental or coincidental. I believe all things are providential. And so each moment has something I can learn from it. If we take it from a people perspective, most people try to get to know the CEO, or they try to get to know the president, or they try to get to know those who have titles. Some of my most meaningful relationships have been with the custodians, the wisdom that custodians have, or some of my most meaningful conversations have been with those that are in service, especially as a fellow servant. What do you learn from serving? Who should I connect to? Who should I stay away from? You can normally find that out from your custodial staff, or your servants, and let's say your cafeteria. These are the people who know, and they see people when nobody really sees them.
Right.
And that makes a difference, is how we treat people. That's another part of purpose, because oftentimes some of our pain comes from how we mishandle a moment. And so we want to make sure that we manage moments well. Because it teaches us about ourselves. And that's one of the things I've had to learn, is how to manage a moment well, especially difficult moments. Can I find destiny in a difficult place? Those are the types of questions that I ask. So it's setting up questions to get something out of it, not get something from a person, because some people use people, but to get something out of a moment, whether it's wisdom, to watch and to learn. I'm an observer. So as an observer, I'm constantly looking and watching around me to see what I can get from that moment, or glean from that time.
Oh, that is so good. Wow. And so, even when we're talking again about our topic today is a birthing purpose. So, for that person, again, we've talked about, no matter where you're at in life, where you're a newbie or a seasoned person, we always should be looking for purpose. And I know you talked about, what are you excited about? Even if you weren't getting paid for it, what are you excited about? So that's one thing of discovering what your purpose is. Tell us some more ways of discovering what your purpose is.
I read a book, Mike Murdoch. I had to think about what Mike Murdoch wrote in his book. Whatever makes you mad is probably the thing you're assigned to deal with. That was a key revelatory moment. It's, what is that thing that bothers you? What is the thing that keeps you up at night? What is the thing that when you see it, it inspires you, or if it doesn't inspire you, it makes you angry, or infuriates you? So does it inspire or infuriate? Those are the types of things that you can identify that you are probably the solution to. And that's what when we start thinking about purpose, a lot of people complain, Dr. Harriet, but they don't complain with solutions. Are you born to be the solution to the very problem that you're speaking about? That's how I look at purpose. The thing that maybe you see, you may very well be the solution to. The thing that's frustrating you, you might be the answer to that thing. Were you born to be the answer to a problem? Most things that we have, things that were created, things that were established, came out of somebody problem solving, which is purpose. And what is that thing around you that is unresolved, but you're in the middle of it? Or what is a problem that you see trending and you see it all the time, but it hasn't been addressed? I don't know how many times I've had casual conversations with my husband, and we may talk about, oh, this will be a idea. And then we see it maybe 6 months to a year later. It's like, how do we miss that moment?
Right.
Purpose. And I do believe that there's windows of opportunity. And if we miss those windows, then somebody's going to pick it up, because they're going to also identify it as an unmet need. Unmet needs are a purpose.
That's really good. And I was made me think about even the man who created the elevator, which was an African American man. His name fails me now, but he was African American, and he just saw a need. He probably was tired of walking up and down the steps.
Tired of walking up and down.
So there has to be a better way. It has to be a better way to deliver this stuff to the second floor or whatever. Let me see what I can come up with. But you're right, what what is the need? We need to be thinking about what are needs. And a lot of times, and again, you're so right. A lot of times we could be sitting and chatting and saying, I wish that there was something like this out here. I wish that, somebody came up with, how many times have we said that in our life? I wish somebody would come up with whatever, why not? Right?
So what that speaks to is the fact that purpose is normally wrapped in problems. And that's what a lot of us have issue with, is that purpose often comes wrapped in problems, or purpose comes wrapped in pain. And when we're trying to avoid the problem, or we're trying to avoid the pain, but the very thing we're trying to avoid is the thing we're called to work on, or work towards, or solve. And so when the package is not the way we want it, a lot of us wanted purpose to be just this pathway that was pretty. My purpose was not pretty. Getting to where I am came from a damaged, dirty thing. It was nasty, but it was necessary. And the reason it was necessary was because it made me who I am today. It doesn't mean that it was all God's perfect will. There were some things that just happened because we have free will. And there's a difference between God's perfect will and free will. So I'm the victim of somebody else's free will, but I'm also the victor because of God's perfect will. And so when we recognize that sometimes the packaging of purpose doesn't come pretty, then we're able to walk in purpose. Again, it goes back to that thing that frustrates, or that thing that gets on your nerves, that thing that gets in the way. Those are, or that effort to fix something that we just didn't. It's like, okay, I can't deal with this no more. What solution do I have? Some of the people that lack maybe the formal education are some of the most creative people, because they're just trying to find a way to solve a problem. I like to watch crazy is on YouTube. They have these, what they call, it's a crazy solution until it works. Yeah, it's stupid until it works. And so they show these different things that people have done that look crazy, but then they work. Hooking up a fan to ice to cool off a room, in essence, is crazy. But when it works, then is it really crazy? Right. So that's, again, purpose doesn't come packaged pretty all the time. It may not be straight to a 4-year degree, straight to your job, straight to your career, straight to purpose. It may be a crooked pathway, riddled with problems, but it leads to purpose. And I think that's one of the things I really want people to understand, that it's not always pretty, but pretty doesn't mean it's not going to be precious.
I love that. And then say it may have been nasty, but it was necessary. I like how you put that. That's a book, Dr. Key.
It's a sermon from some time ago, but that it came down to the process. Even for the believers that are watching us, the cross was nasty, but it was necessary. It was necessary for our salvation. So there's some things that we're going to face that are nasty, but they are necessary. There's some things in my life that had to happen because it shaped my whole perspective. It detoxed my perspective. It made me go reevaluate some things. So it was nasty, but it is in process. It is, it's a part of a book. So it's all being trademarked. Let me put it out there. It's being trademarked. So, but yes, ma'am, it is coming. It is coming. But that's, again, those steps. But I also learned about, even so much as trademarking, I learned that because of some difficult processes where some intellectual property was released, and I was excited. I was like, it's God. And then to see it replicated was painful, but it taught me. That's why the Purpose Birthing Bootcamp came, to teach people how to protect intellectual property. And it's still a fight. We're in a global society that is connected more than ever in terms of social media and the internet. So some things are not as easy to protect as they were before. So it's really helping people. That's part of that Purpose Birthing Bootcamp, is helping people to stay ahead of some things so they can be protected and not have to go through. Yeah. Protecting purpose.
Wow. Our time is gone. Where'd the time go? This has been so good. Will you come back again, Dr. Key?
Dr. Harriet, it would be a great honor. I thank you again for opening up and allowing me to be a part of what you're doing in the kingdom, what you're doing across the globe, giving people access and also inviting people into wisdom. So thank you. It would be an honor to come back anytime.
Oh, that's so wonderful. And just encouraging everybody again to go to the website, follow her on social media, ask her to come and speak at your conferences. Definitely reach out to her about in so many different areas. and the boot camp, even finding out more about the boot camp, because I'll be there, guys. I'm going to be at that boot camp too.
We're
So
so honored.
again, yeah, thank you again for joining us, and thank you, audience from all over the world, joining us right here on Conversations with Dr. Harriet on the Power Network. Remember, today only happens once, so make it amazing. And we will see you next time. Thank you, Dr. Key. I appreciate you.
Thank
And I just wish
you.
blessings over your life, over your ministry, over your family. And I know this God has so many amazing things in store for you. And that amazing brand. You got to come back next time and talk about how you're branding. I love that.
I promise I will. Thank you to everybody who watched and shared in this. May the Lord bless you. And as I say, one of my favorite sayings, I've been saying it for years, is sanctified smooches and holy hugs.
I love it. Well, we will see everyone next time. Thank you.